Hello students, welcome to week 6 for Journal 371. This week we are looking at how we are blogging every day and making it part of our lives and how it impacts us in many different ways this week. Our agenda tells us we are reading chapter 8. We are exploring ideas related to citizen journalism as well as completing discussion board number 6 this week. In addition to that, we are completing blog analysis number 3. Our weekly objectives tell us that we are examining the value of sharing personal stories on blogs, discussing the differences between journaling and blogging, as well as reviewing the value of storytelling through digital media platforms. This aligns with our course objectives 1.2 and 2.1. So our blog analysis number 3 is similar to the other two that we have done. The only difference this week is that you'll pick a new blog that you haven't looked at. Remember to look at feedback that I may have provided along the way related to your other blog analyses assignments. I'm looking particularly for you to kind of branch out there and pick something you have not yet selected. So if you've already looked at a mommy blog or looked at a lifestyle blog, maybe this time look at one that's more news-oriented or sports-oriented or related to cooking as opposed to fitness or whatever it may be. I'm looking for you to apply some major themes that you found in the blog and how it relates to communication theories we've learned in the course, as well as the blog's effectiveness in being a digital media platform. So once you've done that, you can complete discussion number 6. Discussion number 6 will ask you to look at some of the questions that come directly from the course reading this week. We're looking at the differences between journals and blogging. We're also looking at how personal journaling is also very similar to telling stories about everyday lives in the same way that we would use it on a blog. And we're looking at dialogue in our writing. So do keep that in mind. This is due on Friday. Your original post is due on Friday with reply posts due on Sunday. You can complete everything sometime between Friday and Sunday, whatever's easiest for you. As we're moving through some of the content this week, you see we're going to be beginning to wrap things up. Our course ends in a couple weeks, so we are finishing some of our major assignments and moving into where our critical assignment will be. I wanted to spend some time this week pointing out how to tighten or narrow your focus within the blog. This is something that the chapter 8 spends a lot of time talking about, and it's something that a lot of bloggers, microbloggers, social media influencers, whatever they may be, digital media experts fall victim to. We have these lofty ideas that we want to say are we come at them from a very wholehearted perspective, but oftentimes is not maybe executed in the best way possible. More importantly, we see this happen a lot with lifestyle bloggers. They fall victim to becoming a catch-all for writing about everything under the sun. And what I mean by that is that you may pick an aspect of your life or say, I'm going to write about my life, or I'm a mom, I have kids, I'm related to this, or I work 40 plus hours a week, I'm going to talk about balance. I'm really into fitness, so I'm going to be a fitness blog. Whatever it may be, we fall victim to narrowing our focus. One thing that the chapter points out this week that actually is really relevant across the board when you look at how to blog and be effective in your blogging, when you look from a research perspective, is that you should pick an aspect of your everyday life. Yes. Look at the place in which you live, parenting, preparing for a marathon, and make that a topic for your blog. If you're going to be a large blog, and what I mean by large, I mean large in your focus, look at it from a macro-micro perspective. What is the macro perspective that you want to be? Okay, so you're a parenting blog, particularly you focus in your audience are related to mothers. Let's just use this hypothetically. That's fine. That's your macro perspective. The micro perspective would be then the sections of your blog. What about the particular aspects of parenthood are you going to discuss? Are you going to discuss discipline, crafts, travel, whatever it may be, everyday life? Narrow your focus related to that particular thing and let that be what you focus on and become really good at and really focused in from the beginning, and then you can branch out and do a little more. Also, do not forget to consider your brand when developing a story. Find a way to relate your story to your brand, but to engage with your audience at the same time. This may seem like it's easier said than done, and that is true. You want your story to relate to your brand always. You want to bring it back to the focus of what your blog is, but you also want it to be consistent with what your overall brand relates to. For example, I have a blog, it's called Embrace Autism. It's where we are focused on providing parents or family members or anybody interested in knowing more about autism and how to embrace it within their life. We say that very broadly on purpose, but our clear focus is we focus on inclusion in everyday life, strategies and trends in the autism community when it comes to living that everyday life in an inclusive environment, and news related to special needs, special education, and whatever that may be. So those are our three umbrella areas that are our micro perspective, but our macro perspective is really just telling the world more about what it's like to have a child or work with or live with or have a family member that is on the autism spectrum. And so with that, we have to find a way every day to find a way to relate the story to our brand. Our brand is about embracing autism. And so what does the story tell us that relates back to that? The book gives us an example of making sure that that the best blogs are about daily life and sometimes inspire books, ideas, or better yet, calls from publishers. Your blog is your portfolio. It gives you the perspective that you need. For example, Colin Bevan published his book, No Impact Man, in 2009 after spending a year blogging about his efforts to reduce environmental impact on the planet as close to zero as possible. He later ran for Congress as a member of the Green Party and converted his blog into a voice for energy conservation, is now well known in the field related to that, which is very, very big. So think about how your blog can help you and relate to what you are doing and how it will not just inspire others, but engages with others in some way. So be inspirational. Your blog it communicates. You know this. Blogging is a form of communication, yes, but it's communicating something to the masses. With each blog entry, you are putting your personal thoughts onto paper. As you do this more often, your communication skills increase. You'll notice that you'll find everything that you're doing is being permeated by the communication efforts you've done throughout your blog. And lastly, it's important as you tighten your focus to stay organized. I mean that physically and digitally. In order for people to read what you write, you need to organize your thoughts and ideas, write them clearly, yes, but as you continue to do this, your organizational skills will increase. Blogging has increased the awareness of many bloggers and the need for organization and writing to be effective in communicating what they have to say, but also in effectively navigating their sites. You can be the greatest writer, but if your site is not easy to navigate or is not aesthetically pleasing, that organization effort will fall short because your readers are going to go elsewhere. So you want to maintain that professional presence, yes, and make sure your site is something that is flawless and organizationally pleasing to the eye. The second concept I want to talk about is citizen journalism. Citizen journalism is something that we're exploring this week, kind of a little beyond the scope of what the reading entails, but all of you are becoming citizen journalists if you've not heard that term already. This idea, citizens as journalists, includes private and particularly is focused on private individuals performing the same tasks as professional reporters. I've given you a list of things citizen journalists do or accomplish. Citizen journalism includes private individuals essentially performing the same tasks professional reporters perform. They report information, otherwise known as user-generated content. That information can take many forms as podcasts, editorial reports to city council meetings, on a blog, videos that are posted on social media. It's text, pictures, audios, anything that's basically communicated in some form or another as a piece of news or a journalistic piece from somebody that is the layperson, not a professionally trained journalist. The other main feature of citizen journalism is that it's usually found online. In fact, with the emergence of the internet and digital media, blogs, podcasts, streaming videos, social media outlets like Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook have innovated regular everyday people to be able to become journalists and reporting what they see around them. In fact, this is what's made citizen journalism relevant and possible in today's age. Digital media tools gave non-journalists the ability to transmit information globally. That was a power once reserved for the very largest media corporations and news agencies before the advent of smartphones and the internet being accessible to us on an everyday basis. It can take very many forms, citizen journalism. Pointer Organization, a journalism education site, has said that others have outlined different forms of citizen journalism, and that really there are many different ways that it can be used. And in fact, news organizations today are beginning to embrace citizen or user-generated content as a form of content for their broadcasts and use in the paper, as well as magazines, and to post on their social media sites. They're going to what's on social media and what's submitted from users and those on social media more quickly and efficiently, and then they get the reporter out to follow up and do a professional piece. Citizen journalism was once hailed as a revolution that would make news gathering a more democratic process, one that would no longer solely be the province of the professional reporters. While citizen journalists empower local communities and fill in the gaps of the mainstream media, it still is a work in progress. One problem is that citizen journalists have been marred by non-fact-checked, inaccurate reporting that can further divide Americans today in very toxic political or social cultures. With inaccurate reporting, the audience is left to not know what to believe, and so it's very important that we understand where we're getting our information from and how to be very critical in evaluating that. As you go through this, the reason why I wanted to point that out is blogs, historically, so in the last 10 to 15 years, we'll say maybe 15 years or so with them, the advent of them, were the primary driving force behind citizen journalism, meaning anyone could create a website and put information out there and send it out into the interwebs for anyone to read and learn about. And so it started to create this huge shift in how we create content in the field of journalism, how reporters report information, and what we do with that information, since now virtually anybody could create and put that information out there. So it's very, very important to think about it from the perspective of your blog being a media organization and a digital media outlet. As we continue to read through the week, we're completing Chapter 8. We're watching a video on citizen journalism. We're completing discussion board number 6, as well as blog analysis number 3. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to interacting with you and pray you all have a blessed week. God bless.